Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for African News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, after a night of unrest, the Ivorian government agrees to the calls for back pay for over 9,000 soldiers who fought in over a decade of unrest in the country. Also, Kenyan police seize weapons and arrest over 100 people suspected of militant activity in more raids on mosques in Mombasa. Security forces say they've received intelligence that places of worship are being used by al-Shabaab extremists to radicalize their supporters. And with half of Madagascar's under 5 suffering from malnutrition, health workers say that sometimes mother's milk is not best. The new programme is shaking up the menu to beef up children's eating habits. Our correspondents tell us more. First up, after a night of protests, soldiers in Ivory Coast have returned to their barracks after the government agreed on Wednesday to pay back wages to thousands of ex-rebels currently serving in the military. The country is still emerging from a decade of political upheaval, and thousands of disgruntled troops who fought during the rebellion are still demanding state salaries. Take a look.
Traffic is fluid again in Abidjan. Hundreds of soldiers who had paralyzed several cities on Tuesday removed their barricades as their representatives met with government officials to settle their pay dispute.
From January 1st, 2009 to June 1st, 2011, we received nothing. We decided to act in order to be heard.
And authorities heard the protesters loud and clear.
The president has decided to solve these problems. What's certain is that the 8,400 corporals will get the first part of what they deserve by the end of November.
The soldiers also want to be promoted and get their traveling expenses refunded. The government hasn't rejected any of their demands so far. Among the protesting military, there are corporals and also hundreds of former rebels who backed Alassane Ouattara during post-election violence in 2011. When they blocked the streets on Tuesday, some Ivorians feared new violence would erupt and a leadership challenge.
The shooting began in the train station at 8 a.m. We had to send the children back home. They were terrified and their parents were panicking too.
Authorities say there is no need to exaggerate the scope of the protest. According to the government, the soldiers weren't violent, and if their demands were accepted immediately, it's because they're perfectly legitimate.
Despite international calls for the army in Burkina Faso to stay out of politics, the colonel who stepped in as leader after President Blaise Compaoré was ousted last month has been named as Prime Minister. Lieutenant Colonel Isaac Zida has been appointed as head of the transitional government and promised to stick to plans for elections in 2015. It follows the naming on Tuesday of Michel Kafando as president, an appointment that's actually been welcomed internationally. The African Union, though, has been pushing for a swift return to civilian rule, and Zida's playing a pivotal role in the interim government may prove controversial. 109 people have been arrested in Mombasa in the latest round of raids launched by police. The suspects are believed to have been undergoing militant training, and Wednesday's operation targeted several mosques in which authorities say they found explosives, a hand grenade and bomb-making paraphernalia. Security forces are searching for weapons and cracking down on sites suspected as being used to radicalize supporters of Somalia's al-Shabaab militants. Raids since Monday have raised tensions, and 4 people were stabbed to death in the port city in apparent revenge attacks earlier this week. Authorities say they've received intelligence that houses of worship are at the center of a program of radicalization.
Obviously clear that a lot more than preaching and prayers is taking place in these mosques. We decided to take the bull by the horns and raided the entire Kisauni County with specific attention to the mosques that featured in the intelligence reports.
The UN's once again warned that Nigeria's Islamist insurgency threatens to spiral out of control and destabilize the whole Sahel region. Over more than 1.5 million people have left their homes because of Boko Haram's campaign of violence, and around 100,000 have quit the country altogether. But as the extremists ramp up cross-border raids, refugees remain in fear for their lives.
This has been Ayuba's home for nearly a year, the Minawao refugee camp in northern Cameroon. He and his wife had to flee their home in neighbouring Nigeria after Islamist group Boko Haram destroyed their village.
Boko Haram arrived in my village and started killing everyone. They killed people in my family. They ordered us to convert to Islam or else they'd kill us. But I managed to escape and arrived here in Cameroon.
Since Boko Haram launched its campaign in 2009 to take control of Nigeria, around 40,000 Nigerians have sought refuge in neighbouring Cameroon. The situation has grown worse in recent months, and October saw Boko Haram carry out an attack of unprecedented scale against the Cameroonian army. More than 5,000 people cross the border from Nigeria into Cameroon every week, and the camp's population has shot up to 18,000 from just 6,000 in 2 months. New arrivals are often weak and disease is rife.
Many people died because when we arrived, there's no toilet, people defecate outside, so, the flies can transmit diseases. People cook outside and defecate outside, is a terrible thing. Disease came up and we lost many children.
Children, who make up half of the camp's population, are especially vulnerable. There's simply not enough food to go around and education is on hold.
There is no teachers. In a primary school like 1,005 students, we also get only 7 or 6 teachers. How can they going to teach? They cannot able to teach unless they carry another teachers.
The UN fears this huge influx could lead to a humanitarian catastrophe in Cameroon. But more pressing in people's minds is the fear that Boko Haram may return and attack again in the very place where they have found refuge.
In Madagascar, health workers are trying to tackle the problem of widespread childhood malnutrition by changing the menu. With half of the island's under 5s not getting enough to eat, campaigners are encouraging mums to replace breast milk with a specially fortified supplement.
It's 6 a.m. The Kuba Ain is almost ready. Its name means porridge of life. It's based on a cereal and bean flour, high in vitamins and calcium. A social enterprise, Nutrizaz, serves it in special baby restaurants like this one.
Eating Kubain makes my baby stronger, and it makes him grow as well.
A portion of Kuba Ain is like a full meal, 120 kilocalories for 5 cents. Malnutrition is not always due to poverty. Bad feeding habits can also be the reason.
You're in such a rush. You're used to only eating what makes you full, but it doesn't bring you energy-giving elements. Your baby might be full, but he's not provided with energy.
After the baby's restaurant, it's time for street distribution. Nutrizaz delivers to 43 different neighborhoods around Madagascar.
The Kubain is a convenient response, an accessible response for a family who can't afford expensive food or doesn't always know what to buy if they can.
Nutrizaz sells 10,000 portions every day, but it is not enough. Millions of children in the country still suffer from malnutrition.
There
is a health problem we have to deal with, a communication problem, an educational problem. In order to resolve all this, we need funds, so we ask sponsors for goodwill and support.
Child malnutrition fell from 51% in 2008 to 47% this year. Despite this slight improvement, child malnutrition is still a major public health problem in Madagascar.
God Borja there for us in Madagascar. Well, a quick look now at the final 16 after Wednesday's qualifying matches for the 2015 African Cup of Nations. Reigning champions Nigeria will not defend their title in Equatorial Guinea after failing to qualify from Group A. The Super Eagles drew 2-2 with South Africa, and Congo-Brazzaville's 1-0 win over Sudan, so then pipped Nigeria to second and go through with the Bafana. In Group B, Mali made it through to the finals with a 2-0 win over Algeria. The Desert Foxes suffered their first defeat of the campaign, but had already booked their place. DR Congo came from a goal behind to beat visiting Sierra Leone 3-1. That was enough to seal the 16th and final spot in the group stage draw, as Egypt lost 2-1 to Tunisia in the late games. Ivory Coast's 0-0 draw with Cameroon earlier saw them join their opponents in making the cut. Meanwhile, Ghana locked down their place at the tournament with a 3-1 victory over Togo and will be joined there by Guinea, who beat Uganda 2-0 in Morocco. Well, that wraps up African news from me. Stay with us, though. A short break and more coming up.
Reporters. Can France's far-right National Front build on its success in this year's municipal elections? Can the party's record number of mayors pave the way for success in the next presidential ballot? Henin-Beaumont, Fréjus and Béziers are three towns where the National Front is now in power. It says it's determined to govern in the interest of the people, but France will judge on their performance. Is the National Front up to the task?
Reporters on France 24 and France24.com.